To it. We are into the third session. Tonight, I want to kind of recap what we went over the last two sessions. We talked about the 6 ways to treat, promote, and improve human health. And I kind of was thinking about, I had a patient come in. Just a little quick story I just wanted to share with you. Today, and obviously not going to give any names and stuff like that, but just the problem that is happening with young people today. These are young teenagers who parents really concerned about the stress levels that they're dealing with, and obviously as they're as a chiropractor, I'm feel for them and feel for the parents, and I can't imagine how many other parents out there are dealing with these issues. This person was talking about how, the child that doesn't want to come out of the room, and issues with weights, just all kinds of stuff. So our hope and prayer is that, people out there who are parents who are going through these issues would make sure that they engage with their children, get them involved with doing community service work. I just think that when we have these kinds of issues going on, and we're all dealing with these kinds of issues during this last 2 years. But I think that many times it really helps when we can get away from ourselves and start putting attention on other people and things that we can do to help other people. That I just think that sometimes that may be an avenue to help us come out of the stress that we're dealing with. I mean, I think it's one way. I certainly don't want to see people resort to taking drugs to handle that kind of situation. So moving ahead, we were, as I said, we're going to kind of review what we did the last couple of weeks. Also, make sure as we move through tonight that we really want you to add in, some comments into the chat column, and I will do my best to respond to them. This is a type of talk that we like to have participation from everyone out there. So if you have some comments and things, please put them in the chat box, and then we'll do our best to answer them as best we can. Okay. So the last couple times we talked, we started talking about the 6 ways to treat, promote, and improve human health, and we started out talking about exercise. And I think most of us know that it's so important to move, to get your body moving and keeping it strong, and doing exercise that would increase strength, flexibility, and also endurance. And then we talked a little bit about nutrition and diet, and being involved with chiropractic many times, we don't want to miss the point that as a chiropractor, our major focus and goal is to look well to the spine, to check and see if there are any types of spinal imbalances that we call subluxations, where the vertebra would move out of its normal alignment, blocking the impulses coming from the brain, traveling down the spinal cord, going to every organ, cell, and tissue. So as I do my talks, I want you to know that even though I'll be talking about other things, I'm going to always bring it back to the spine, because that's where I think chiropractic should have its landing ground, and helping people understand the significance in keeping the spine properly aligned, so that we have better communication within the body. So as I mentioned before, exercise, diet, nutrition is all important. We know that. I mean, and this is something we cannot forget, and we can't push that aside. Even though as a chiropractor, I'm going to be always concerned about checking the spine, getting the patient adjusted, and making sure they look at being adjusted for the duration of their lifetime on the planet. And at the same time, we have to look at other factors that is important to bring about healing in the human body. So tonight we're going to talk a little bit about the chemical aspect, the medical chemical aspect, and then surgery. So when we talk about these 6 ways, these are just ways in which people in public, in the general public, do things to bring about healing in their body, or what they think will bring healing in their body. So let's look at the medical chemicals. So I want to give you just a little story from me. I remember as a young person growing up, I suffered really, really bad with asthma, allergies, and I was literally on all kinds of medication growing up. And the medications really helped me, and I mean that they helped to stop the symptoms, but they only stopped them for a little while. And this went on for as long as I can remember, up until I was 19. And I'm just telling you this, really, truly, something occurred in one of the incidents when I took the medication, and I literally felt that I don't know what a heart attack feels like, and I don't want to know what it feels like, but what I could tell you is that the symptoms that I was experiencing, well, the side effects that I was experiencing from taking this medication, it made my heart feel like it was going to explode out of my chest. It was just a rapid heartbeat, and it was very scary. And so luckily for me, and this is why I think that for myself, when I think about chiropractic and how my life has turned out, that I really believe that God has his hand in our lives if we pay attention. And what I mean by that is just being aware of the signs that come that tell us to move in another direction. And so for me, it was, fortunately for me, the young lady that I was dating at the time just suggested to me, say, hey, why don't you consider going to my chiropractor? Okay? And so my thought at that time was, what is a chiropractor going to do for this particular problem? Because I didn't know. And luckily for me, and I have to give a shout out to one person, this person who I consider to be one of the best and greatest chiropractors out there, and that is Dr. Marty Brown, who I still get adjusted by him till this day. And he sat me down, and I honestly can tell you that if you see this little poster on the back wall here, it talks about the autonomic, it shows a picture of the autonomic nervous system. And what he did was he actually showed me, he took the time out of his schedule, and we sat down and talked, and he told me basically how the brain and body worked. And he also told me how when we engage in taking medications are chemicals that try to basically produce an effect in the body that the body would normally do on its own. And but the unfortunate thing about medicines was that in many cases it can produce a side effect that may be detrimental to you or to any human being. And that's what occurred for me. So he explained to me how my spine and nerve system worked. It's the first time that I remember having and taking health classes in high school, but never was it explained to me in detail like the way he taught me that particular day when I was 19, going back several years ago. Okay, so from that, he shared with me about the spine and how that, through stressors in life, whether it be thoughts, we know that thoughts can cause people to get to become unhealthy. I mean, you can have negative thoughts and they can create bad health in your life. I mean, if you know that out there, if you do, put that in the chat box and share that with me. We also know that good thoughts can help you feel and function better in life, right? So that's also true. So, and then we have traumas, all kinds of traumas that can occur. I know for me, as a young person growing up, I was involved in all kinds of sports. I played football, basketball, and track. And the impacts and insults that I incurred doing those sports but I know they had some impact on my spine and nerve system. And then we talk about toxins. And as a young kid growing up in our home, probably the major toxin that we encountered was sugar. And I tell you, we ate a lot of sugar. My mom used to always tell us, if you eat your dinner, you can have dessert. And, all those toxins going into my system over the time, I'm sure had to play a role in causing my nervous system not to be able to function the way that it should function. So what I learned from Dr. Brown was that after he took x-rays and showed me what areas of my spine was out of alignment, started a course of chiropractic care, getting my spine adjusted. I was seeing him from what I can remember, 3 days a week for about 6 months. And I will tell you that after that experience, I never experienced a asthmatic attack since then. Okay, and so I owe just about everything that I know today in terms of what subluxations do when the spine goes out of alignment, how it can actually impact the human health. And by getting adjusted and staying adjusted on a regular ongoing basis throughout these last, we're talking about 50 years, that my body has been able to function in such a way that I'm just very grateful for. So, looking back now, so I would never tell you or tell any patient out there that medicine is something that is wrong to do, because medicine in its right place is probably one of the best things that can occur for a person who may be suffering from something, especially if it's a life-threatening illness that they may be dealing with. And in that case, medicine may be the answer for them. My thinking is that what I think is important, and you can tell me what your thoughts are about this too. I'd be more than happy to hear what people have to say about that. I think that while we are on medication, though, I think that it becomes very important that we figure out things that we can do to bring about a natural balance and healing in the human body, so that we can really respond in such a way that the body can actually start taking over and doing the things that it knows how to do without depending on drugs or medication. And again, like I said, there are some people out there, could be many people out there, that may be in a situation where they may have been born with an ailment that may require them to be on medication for the rest of their lives. So it's important also to understand, when we think about the medical chemical aspect as one of the choices of healing, we have to always keep in mind that when it comes to drugs, we have to be very mindful of the side effects that they have. Because remember, all drugs, no matter what they are, they're going to have some type of side effect to them. It's just the reality of it, okay? And so if we become dependent on that, it can create a lot of problems. So, in the United States, I think last I heard it was that we're like 5% of world population, and we consume over 50 to 70% of all the drugs on the planet. To me, there's something wrong with that. Okay, you may not think that, but I certainly think that there's a problem with that. So we need to really become more conscientious of what we're doing, and think more in terms of maybe some of the more natural things that we can do to bring about healing. We know that we use more than like 2 billion prescriptions are written each year. The pharmaceutical industry, and these are old figures, is a $49 billion industry, and it's actually causing like 120,000 accidental deaths due to side effects and from prescription drugs, and even from over-the-counter drugs. I know I've had experience of talking to people who may have a health issue, and they talk about maybe going to a neighbor's house or a friend, and they may have a symptom, and they may ask them if they have some type of medication. And I would suggest that is something you don't want to do, because you never know, number one, if that medication is the right medication for you. You don't know if that medication has expired. There are just a lot of things that you have to really be conscious of when you're getting involved with something like that. So, we have to become more conscious of that. The next thing we want to look at is surgery. I think that's another area we have to look at. I remember a few years back too, I had an incident where I hurt my knee, and I was playing basketball, and I did something, tweaked my knee, and went to have an evaluation on it, and was told that I had a partial tear or something like that, and that I could go in and get the surgery done. But I opted not to, because again, I talked to one of my chiropractic buddies, and he advised me that there's some things that I could do to rehab my knee on my own. And thank God I did that and never had to go through getting surgery. And so what I do now is I make sure that I do things on a regular basis to keep my spine in a proper alignment, getting adjusted. Because remember, all this is connected. Your spine, your pelvis, all those areas are connected. And through the rehab work that I did, I was able to not have to go through getting any type of surgery, and things worked out well. So that's another thing that we want to think about. Yeah, even though, again, I always say that when it comes to emergency situations, I think our healthcare system is probably the best in taking care of those issues. But when we think about doing things from a holistic, natural way, I firmly believe that I believe that chiropractic is probably the number one thing that people should be doing on a regular basis. And when there are emergencies where that, if you're involved in a motor vehicle accident or slip and fall, and you fall down and break your leg or your arm and your bones sticking out, I would recommend that you go to the emergency room first, and then maybe later on that day or the next day come and see me. Okay, nothing much that I want to be able to do for you with a bone sticking out of your arm or your leg. So again, we know that, again, surgeries are important. They're necessary, and that is another avenue that we can utilize to bring about healing and promoting human health. But as I said before, think hard before agreeing to a surgery. Again, I go back and think about the incident back in 2017. I was in a rear-end accident, hurt my back pretty bad, and really bad. I mean, I never really knew what back pain felt like until that incident occurred. But what I did, and I had MRIs, I held the whole nine. I went to see a neurosurgeon, and obviously they wanted to do a surgery, and I just, backed off of it, and I just decided to go to my chiropractor, get adjusted, do some stretching. And it took a while, but guess what? Over time, my back got better and better over time, and now I'm feeling really, really good. Okay, but I also continue to get adjusted. I make sure that I get out and get adjusted once a week, sometimes twice, depending on how if there's something going on that I really need it. I don't want to miss a week of not getting adjusted. Same thing, I make sure that happens for my wife and my children. I want to make sure when, especially if my children are home close by, I want to make sure they're getting adjusted every week. So again, when those situations occur, if you need to have surgery, think very carefully about it, and make sure you make the right choice and right decisions about that. Okay. Let's see here. I'm really looking for, if you have any comments, just kind of type them in there, and I will do my best to answer those comments. Okay. So moving forward, we're going to move into the fifth stage of sixth way that we can actually produce, treat, and also promote and improve human health. The next one is emotional and emotional mental. And this is a big one because, many times we don't realize that when we're engaged in a lot of stress. I think that the last 2 years for most people on the planet, if we're honest, it has been probably some of the toughest times in our era, when we think about what we've gone through. The emotional trauma of being put in a situation where you had to be locked down, staying in, wearing masks, not knowing that if you go to a place, if you can get in or not. It was just, to me, it was a very stressful time. Interestingly, that, I read a study where the insurance companies were able to do a study and found out during this last 2 years, the death rates of people in their early 20s, maybe up into their 50s, had increased by 40%. And that particular statistic has never been like that in the past. I think that they said that the most that anything would, deaths would increase would be by about 10%. But in this situation over the last 2 years, it's increased by 40%. So that tells us that there's a lot of stress out there that people are dealing with. And I always remember my grandmother used to say something like, "Man, I feel like the weight of the world is on my shoulders." And the reason why I think that's an important analogy is that we can encounter stress and not know that it's there, right? And so we also must understand that stress has an impact on the human body. And if the body is overwhelmed by prolonged stress, that is the thing that can cause your nerve system to start going out, being interfered with, cause your muscles to contract. In turn, it will actually cause the vertebra to come out of alignment and therefore create some malfunction in your body that you don't even know is there until the condition gets progressively worse. And then, in our culture, unfortunately, what most people do when they're under that kind of stress and body's not working, they're typically going to go to their medical doctor or whoever, and 9 times out of 10, you're going to walk out of the office with a prescription. Okay? So this stress that we're dealing with is real. And I also go back to my grandmother, and she would say things like, when things were resolved, when it comes to stress, she would say this, that I feel like the weight of the world's been lifted off of my shoulders. Okay? So it's real. You can't many times see it, but you can feel it. Okay? So it becomes important that we pay attention to our body, pay attention to our environment. One of the things that I've gotten away from, and I shouldn't say gotten away from, something I just never really got into, was watching the news. I think that, to me, that news is very, very stressful. It's really anything good that's being said on there that is of value to me. It may be different for you, but for me, I don't see that much value. When news comes on, within the first 30 seconds, they're giving you every negative thing that's happening around the world or in your environment. And to me, all that does is causes your nerve system to get locked up, puts you on edge, have you become, a person who's on high alert, and just really not feeling safe anymore. Okay? So, my recommendation, my suggestion is, don't watch the news. To me, I just don't see the value in it, because it's all negative. And I can get, sometimes I may just turn something just to get a little glimpse of what the heck's going on and then shut it down. Okay? The other thing I find, that most of these shows that they have on, like 2020, Dateline, it's those shows also. I think that when you get caught up in watching those all the time, all it can do is create a lot of stress in your life, because it's all about murders and deaths, and that creates, to me, another level of emotional and mental stress. And so, what we can do, and it's important. Like, what I do is, like, a lot of, sometimes when my patients come to me and they've been involved in motor vehicle accidents and things like that, I will send them to a psychotherapist. Why? Because I want them to go, and I want them to be with someone who can actually help them go through a process with, whether it be biofeedback or meditation or whatever, to help them deal with the stressors and the anxieties that occurred from as a result of that accident. I know for me, when I was in that my auto accident, I really got to a point where it became just nervous. When I'm driving, come to a stop, I'm looking in my mirror to make sure there's nobody back there that's going to hit me again, because we got rear-ended on I-95 at a high rate of speed. Okay, so what I was able to do is go to a friend of mine who was a psychotherapist, and he put me through some therapies that I was able to meditate, do some biofeedback, and it helped me to deal with these mental traumas as a result of that motor vehicle accident. Okay, so just keep in mind, as we said, thoughts, trauma, toxins are things that can be very lethal to the human body, and we need to find ways to bring about a healing with those things, because if we don't address them, then obviously they become cumulative over time. And as we know that the brain and nerve system, the human body, can adapt to just about anything, as long as it's not prolonged pounding, pounding on you over and over a period of time, because that is what causes the body to really start to break down. And the unfortunate thing is, when these stresses are impacting our physiology, our bodies, it's being affected without you knowing it. Just like, you go to sleep at night, you have a really bad nightmare, and you wake up and your heart's racing, and you think, why did that happen? Because your nervous system is still working, and you're thinking and you're dreaming or whatever. To the body, it's a very stressful thing, and it can wake you up. Some people may wind up having a heart attack in their sleep as a result of something like that. So we have to be very mindful during these times when we're dealing with COVID and all the things that come along with it over the last couple of years. We have to figure out ways to deal with it. And I think one of the best ways, number one, is getting to my chiropractor, getting adjusted on a regular weekly basis, making sure that I'm eating well, eating good, nutritious foods. Even maybe, like right now I'm going through a 30-day detox program that I think is going to be really good for me. You can consider doing something like that. If you're interested in learning more about that, you feel free to call me or drop a comment. Exercise. Exercise to me is so critical. One of the things that I've committed to doing is getting up in the morning, getting to the gym, and 6 days a week. So from Sunday through Friday, I'm at the gym probably 6:15, 6:30 at the latest, and get my groove on with working out. And I put in a really good solid hour of high intensity workout, and I know that this stuff allows my body to function and operate better. Making sure that you're getting proper sleep. I really strongly believe that, for me anyway, I like getting 7-8 hours of sleep every single night, and uninterrupted. And what I mean by uninterrupted, not having TVs in your bedroom, just have a room that is completely dark, so when you get to bed, you get into that deep REM sleep, and your body's able to function and restore and regenerate itself over a period of that 8-hour period of time. And the other thing is, when you have the opportunity every day, you should do some form of meditation. I just think that is very critical in terms of helping you with your emotional, mental aspect of your life. And this should be something you do and put it in and make it a part of your regular routine every single day. Been doing meditation for a long time. I started at the age of 19 doing transcendental meditation, and I've gone forward and done a lot of stuff. I do some meditations that I learned from Dr. Joe Dispenza, from another fellow chiropractor. He has a morning and evening meditation that I do. I have several of his meditation techniques that I use. But I think that it's so important that we do these things to help calm down our mind and our brain and allow our bodies to really deal with all of the stresses that we are encountering every single day. And the other thing I think is critical, that we offer gratitude every single day. I think that we need to take out time and really write out what is it that we're grateful for, because I think many times we get so engaged in me that we don't see the goodness that we have in our lives with ourselves and with the people in our lives, our family, our friends, our community, the home we live in, the idea just to have a shower, just so many good things that we have in our lives that I think that we really need to be thankful for. So we're going to wrap it up here. I didn't see any comments in the comment column tonight, but my prayer is that you enjoyed this tonight, and we're going to be back here on May the 24th. Also wanted to offer anyone out there listening to this tonight that if you are interested in coming in for a consultation and evaluation, give us a call at the office at 609-383-9121, and we will offer you this until the 24th, coming in, and you'll have an opportunity to go through a consultation and evaluation for $47. Again, we hope and pray that you enjoyed this. Share this video with your all your people out there in your community, and then we'll look forward to being back here with you again on the 24th, okay? And at that time, we're going to be moving into looking at the biomechanical structural, which we're going to get into, talking about how chiropractic can really be the thing that could turn your life around, not only for you, but also for your family, okay? We look forward to seeing you and being with you on our next talk, and have a blessed evening, and good night. Hey, T?
Yeah.
I didn't see any